All right, now we are in After Effects. Our rendering has done. I've closed Blender, and I'm just gonna go and import my final render sequence as a footage to After Effects. Now, if you don't have After Effects, well then, don't render in EXR, I'd say. Or if you use something else like Nuke or Final Cut, or maybe even DaVinci Resolve, then that's fine. But this workflow is going to be with After Effects. And we have our scene, but as you can see, we see nothing in all these frames. Let's see, 30 FPS, that's fine. First of all, you have to go to your project settings and switch this to 32 bits. It'll be by default on 18. You have to switch this to 32, and by default this will be none. So you switch this to sRGB, so everything looks correct. Now what you do is in EXR files you have to use an add-on that you can get for free called Extractor. It's also in here, effects 3D channel Extractor, and you can choose any of these layers: the mist, the noise, the depth. The combined layer is combined everything. The mist layer is just the mist. Look how nice that looks. The noisy image is noisy, obviously. Depth will have nothing in, and then denoising different types, but we don't really care about all this. That looks kind of cool. This is the combined composite after denoising and everything. If you want a non-denoised, then that's this one, view layer, but we want the composited one. Now it does look a bit weird. That's because you need another add-on called Open Color IO, or you can find it here as well in the utilities panel. Open Color IO. You will have to download these, and I'll show you. I'll give you a little bit of a link if you need one. So you can go ahead and choose a configuration and custom, and I'll also provide you this file. It's just a configuration file for all the color management. So what this does basically is adjust the gamma of this image or this animation to match that of the Blender. So we're going to have to go into display and Filmic sRGB as we use in Blender. We can try the rest of these as well. sRGB works fine too, but Filmic sRGB will give us the correct results. Now if we go ahead, and I think it's because of my project settings that I changed. Wait a second. Why isn't this working? Let me go ahead and delete that. Effect, Open Color IO, custom, After Effects, input to Filmic sRGB. Why isn't this working? Weird. Let me try this again. How to troubleshoot these kind of problems. Let's go ahead and import that again and see if maybe we have the same problem, or is it just something stupid that we came across. Maybe it was output. Output. See, I was using the input. Obviously it's linear. We're gonna go to Film sRGB and output. So this is the same as the render that we were looking at inside of Blender. Now let's go ahead and play this animation if we can. It is going to be super slow the first time, but that's fine. Now we can't use this method to quickly check like we did in Premiere Pro, because Premiere Pro does not have this. It does have this add-on, I believe, but I don't have it right now. And we're going to be editing and post-processing everything in After Effects anyway, so it doesn't matter. We could render this out just to check the animation and then just color correct it, I guess. That would be easier because this is way too big. Let's cancel that. Let's go ahead, File, Export, add to render queue, and just render it as a QuickTime. Final movie is fine on the desktop. Render. It might take about the same time, but as soon as it's done, I'll come back to you and then we can check out how our animation looks. Okay, so our render is complete. We can go ahead and just play it back for, let's see, final.mov. Hope this looks good. Whoa, 30 FPS is so fast. Is that 30 FPS? It just seems so fast all of a sudden. I don't know, is the lights blinking fast or... Yeah, I think it's the lights that are blinking pretty fast. Oh, well, I'm not about to change it now. Yeah, see, the preview was 25 frames a second. This is 30 frames a second, so that's fine. We can just change it to 24 frames a second and it will look good. But apart from that, lighting, the swinging, everything else, it's fine. It's fine. The animation is fine. We don't even need to check that. 35.2 MB of our... Let's go ahead and edit this now. Let's close this. How about we add the mist at the end? We'll go ahead and tweak the settings first and then add the mist. Let's add the mist. So we Control D, duplicate this, and from combined we just switch to our mist pass. Now if we look at the mist pass, this is the mist pass. Let's see if it renders. Oh, okay, good. Now it's black over here and gray, whitish back there. Anyway, so let's go to the first frame. And if we use a exposure, we can tweak the white inside our mist. So if we want it to be really misty, high gamma correction, or like a medium and a low, that's 0 is none. So we can even set this like this if we just want mist in the background a bit. By default it's at 1, so everything is misty. Now there are two ways to do this. First, we can add a screen and that will make it all misty. We can try any of these really. You can try add, which kind of gives you a different effect, lighten, which kind of dulls the lights out, so I don't like this. Screen, screen looks okay, or add kind of keeps the lighting intact. I'm not sure about these other. Color dodge, classic color dodge, you can keep fiddling with these. But as you see, screen makes our image look lighter, although fog should maybe make it look darker, I'd say, or at least obstruct the view instead of just making it white. So another technique is to keep it at normal but use an effect in channel and shift channels, and then we take the alpha from the luminance. So now the difference between this, let me show you. And if I just copy this, oops, if I just go ahead and copy this and set this to screen and take out the shift channels. So this is with the screen and this is with the other one that we used, luminance. Now the difference is that with this, only the background is misty and it's just a little bit of mist that's kind of I'd say faded out. But if we use this one, in which is just a screen, then everything is just whited out. It's like a whiteout. So let me give you an example. If I just turn the gamma up to like 5, so everything is white and you can't really see it. But if I turn the gamma up on this to 5, you can still see everything in the background. Basically, it's taking the alpha from the luminance, so everywhere there's a transparency or it's bright, I'd say, that place will be less visible. See, over here we can hardly even see this, and in this we can definitely see it. Anyway, let's just keep this on 1 and keep this on 1 as well, and just you can choose whichever you like. This one or this one, depends on the kind of effect you're going for. Maybe you might actually like this one, I'll keep this one. And if I go back in my timeline, let's see, right here, nothing over here is really fogged up, DC, and only the lights and stuff in the background, the skyscraper and stuff are fogged up. But if we use this one, we have kind of foggy, and since the mist pass is not denoised, there's a view layer depth and the denoised one is the composite. So we don't have a composite dot mist. That would have been denoised. Maybe I should have done that back in the Blender compositing settings. So retrospectively, maybe in the next time we can do that. But right now we have this kind of noise because we did not denoise this. So if you give it a really high gamma, then you'll be able to see the noise. For example, in this one, if we switch to the white one and increase the gamma, then you'll slowly be able to see that there's noise in the image. Anyway, let's keep this, and if we go to something in between, in the middle, and render this, a nice fog back here, no fog over here, nice mist over here, and everything's still clear. If we use this one, you can kind of see some kind of washing out of the colors and stuff that we don't get as much in this. So I'm going to keep this. So let me go ahead and delete that, and I might want to adjust the gamma in case I want to limit the fog to back here, or even increase it if maybe I think it's a cold morning and everything should be frosted or fogged up. Anyway, I'll keep it at 1 right now. Let's check out another frame. That's fine, another frame. And then this last frame. Maybe this is a bit too fogged up at the end. I'm not sure. I kind of like the fact that you can see this. I could keyframe the fog as well. It's way too white. I'd rather stick to something low. That almost doesn't even look right. Cause see, if I want to introduce fog to the foreground, then we get some of this noise, and the background is totally whited out. Anyway, let's keep this at 1 for now. I'll render one with fog and one without fog. That's the good thing about using these kind of things in post processing, that we don't have to go ahead and go into Blender and render out the whole animation. It took about 30 plus hours to render out 200 frames, but this rendering will only take about 5 minutes, 7 minutes to render out the whole thing. So we can render out the whole thing multiple times if needed. Keep this at 1, go back to frame 1, and let's just go ahead and add some color correction to this. So I'm going to go ahead and add an adjustment layer and add all the effects I want onto this. I want to turn the fog off, and then there is a nice little color correction called Lumetri color, and this is everything you pretty much need. You could use a LUT if you have one. LUTs are basically just effects packed into one, so you can just keep changing them and they automatically apply different kinds of color modes and lighting to your scene. If you don't want one, you can download them and browse for them if you happen to have any. Right now I want to go for a night look, so let me go ahead and let's see if we can turn, don't need basic correction, let's go for curves. This brightens it up and this darkens it down. So if we go ahead and set it like this, this makes it really bright in the bright spots and really dark in the dark spots. So that's not what we need. Just a little bit, I'd say. If we can just get a little bit of the curve going, that's enough. Let's go ahead and not the color wheels. Oh, we can get a vignette. It is a white vignette, so that's not good. It kind of looks black now, weird. Maybe if I turn it to -5. No, we can't do that. So we can use it on 0, can use it on 1. I'd say let's go for 0 point minus 5. That's the max. That's okay. Let's just stick to 0 for now. Let's go for basic correction and exposure. Expose everything a bit more. Nope, it's a nighttime scene. Contrast, definitely we can increase the contrast a bit. So I always like to go to the max and see just how much, and then drop down to something lower and see if that looks good, and then go back to the original and see how much it affected. So I think I'll go with something like 40. Highlights, we don't really need to improve the highlights. This is a dark scene. We shadows, if we increase the shadows, basically it goes brighter. See, now you can see your whole scene without it messing up. Even if we up the exposure, it's not really, I'd say, destroying our scene. It's just making it really bright. Obviously we don't need exposure. Shadows, definitely not. Go to 0. This is our original scene. Now it looks a little dark. Maybe increase it a bit or decrease it a bit. Kind of looks nice. I think maybe 10. Just a bit. Whites, blacks. Yeah, I think I actually like the image we got out of the render. Looks okay anyway. Saturation, we can increase this or decrease this. Black and white, normal is 100. So if we go to something like 50, we can give it like a noir effect. something like 70 maybe. So like in nighttime scene, like an old scene, maybe you can have that glitchy effect that you have in old movie clips. It's just the kind of effect you're going for. You can choose any and they'll all look good. And this looks kind of saturated to me now, and I might actually like to keep this on 75 instead of 100. 75 looks something nice, maybe even 65. Yeah, 70 is fine. 75. I might go back to my curves. Oops. Go back to my curves. Come on, RGB curve. Maybe adjust this a bit. Whatever looks good, I guess. We'll know properly when we actually play the animation if it looks good throughout. So that's good. Now you can basically do the same thing with anything. Like you can use a curves, that's basically just the curves. You can use a brightness and contrast just for a little bit of the brightness and contrast. You can even use auto color, auto contrast, auto levels, all of that. Hue and saturation, exposure, colorama for weird colors if you want that kind of thing. Anyway, this is not much of a color correction tutorial, so what we could do is turn this off, put this on the top. What does this say? This file only supports 8 and 16-bit channels. Using this fan 30-bit may reduce color precision, may remove any high dynamic range values. Okay, let's go ahead and try color auto contrast and effect auto levels. See if that helps. I don't think this really worked, so who cares about that. So this is the difference that we made with and without the, I guess it just made it darker, and I don't really like this. It's too dark. I think it's the vignette. No, it's not the vignette. It's the curves. Is it the curves? Or is it the contrast? Nope. Saturation. Oh, well, you can change the temperature of this if you like it colder. Oh, actually, I might like it a little colder, because warm is not good. Let me just reset this to 0. And if we just go to 50, nice and warm. But if we go to minus 50, nice and cold. Yeah, I think I'd prefer a cold effect. Right now it's all warm. I don't know what kind of vibe that gives, but a cold effect is just way more mysterious. Something like this. Ooh, nice. Let's keep it at minus 25, I'd say. That's 2 less cold. I guess minus 50 is good. Nice and blue. This is a bit too much blue. You can also tint it if you wanted to just change colors completely, but we don't want to do that. Blacks, whites, saturation, all is good. Now we can go and add a noise. Let's see, noise and grain, add a grain. Again, this is not able to use in 32-bit, I bet. So if you want to add grain, to this part. Do you see how this is nice and smooth, but this is grainy, and it kind of gives a nice look. Even if you go to final output, then everything is grainy, which kind of looks cool, I'd say. And then you can change like the intensity. We'll go to preview mode, and if you go ahead and change the intensity, that's just disgusting. Go back to 1 on that. Size is the size of the grain. Intensity is way more, that's too much. Softness is then how much it dissolves, but it's not really working over here. So you can't really see the grain over here, but if we reset it, then you can see the grain. It's like a smoothing out effect. Aspect ratio, we don't really need this. Anyway, I don't really even mess around with all these things. We can make it monochromatic, definitely. I wonder if monochromatic would help. Or do you think it just looks good? Let's go to final and monochromatic. I guess mono is good. This is way too much. This grain looks good, so we can turn it off, turn it on. It's a very subtle difference, but it looks pretty cool, I'd say. I mean, you can render one without any of the effects. We already done that. And then you can render one with all the effects, and even the mist as well. So I guess that grain looks enough, decent enough. That's actually good. So close this, and except for the grain, you can add dust scratches. You see this? That's a massive dust scratch, really. Oh, you're trying to tell me that? It's basically crushing all these lights. Interesting feature. Nice. But we don't need this. Noise and grain, match grain, fractal noise is just crazy. We definitely don't need this. That's for other stuff in After Effects. Noise, you can add a simple noise. What's this? It's like noise. You can take off the grain and just add noise on like 10%. It's about the same thing, I'd say. Just the difference is of color. This is noise, and this is grain, and this is noise and grain. So I'd prefer grain to our noise. Remove grain, turbulent noise, everything else. Okay, done with that. Now, what else do you think we need? A vignette. If we brighten it up just a bit, maybe we can give a vignette. Vignette of -5 is pretty strong, so -1 or 0. -0.5 is good, and if we go and increase the exposure to like 1, that's kind of bright. Or is it? Let's see. Let me see if this is 0. Actually, we do want to see our scene as well. So that looks good. That looks good. I think I'll keep it on 0.5 maybe. 0.7. That looks fine. And vignette, and maybe we can get a few. We have rain. Maybe we can have like a green screen of like a splash. We don't really need it. Maybe if we were depicting that someone is watching, or someone has a camera, or someone is looking through a window or something, we can go ahead and try and search for one if we find it, like a raining glass effect. Raining glass green screen. Not really raining glass, because that will be too much, but something like just a few drops, like wet glass, I'd say. We can check these out. And we can actually mask it out, so we could use some of these, but this is raining. We don't need raining, we need wet lens, so that you can tell that it's a lens. We might find it, we might not. You can get rain like this, green screen effects, so instead of actually adding the rain, you can just add it in post-processing. Although you can probably tell, but that's an option if you don't have enough time. This could work maybe as well. So let's go ahead and check these out. This is a nice class, but this is not something we want on our... This would be something we have on top of the actual glass. This is horrible, definitely not this. This is just a clear image. This could work if we mask it. These are so big. These droplets are way too big and they're not even moving. Huh. So splash in front of a camera. No, we don't need this. And what even is this? Leaves, rain. Okay, so this is the only thing that could maybe work if we want to work it. So let's go ahead and download this. 720p is fine. And then we'll move on to some sound design, which is actually the bigger part of post-processing right now. If you're happy with your scene even before post-processing, that's good, because then you don't even need the adjustment layer. Let's see if we take this off. This is our original scene, which is kind of nice. It's kind of warm, less grainy. Put this on, nice grain, a nice cold attitude, a little bit of vignette, kind of gives a like a gloomy nighttime old effect. Like this is kind of jolly. You don't really know why the image is contradicting the vibe you're trying to get because of a, I don't know, murdered guy or something. Some guy was kidnapped from the telephone stand. So this gives a nice look. The grain is maybe a little too much, but I guess we can work with that. It's a little too much down here, but actually it's fine. It kind of covers any kind of imperfections you may have in the scene. So we have our image download. Let's go ahead and import our file, which would be our raindrops. And this loading just reminded me that I should have saved, because I do not want to do all this color grading again. I don't know why. Importing would even cause it to crash, but let's see. Let's hopefully save it. So let's save our project. Call it phone booth. Desktop is fine. And we can go ahead and add this on top of our adjustment, no, on top of our adjustment layer, on top of our image, and we can just scale this to composition. Now if we go ahead in time, or actually if we just move this back, we have the green screen footage of it raining. And if you go to effects, turn this off, let's go to effects, key light, and just select the green color. Now we have it keyed out. And if we put our noir, you can actually save this as a LUT as well, to keep later. Anyway, let's go ahead and check that out. Now we can't really tell of the animation inside of with because our is so slow. But what we can do is, if we just check out the animation of the raindrops in here, it's a slow rain dropping kind of. We don't need this side, we don't need this side, we just want the center, maybe just the center. So let's go ahead and create a vignette. This is not what we need. We need an ellipse tool from the center, and not even something like this. I'd say something like this, and we can go ahead and feather that. Let's not feather it for a second and turn this off and turn this off. So yeah, with and without our mask. So if we turn this to none, everything, and just to add, to add, only get this, which is good, which is what we need, just a little amount of water particles and stuff that we're getting. And then we can go ahead and feather this so that you can get a little bit of the other layer as well. That should be okay for our water droplets, I'd say. Something like our water droplets. Now let's go ahead and we'll check all this when we render it, and then come back and adjust anything we need. Let's go ahead and move on to our sound design. For sound design, I'd actually like to go to Premiere Pro and have this rendered out so we can quickly scrub and play back our animation to see if our sound fits. So let's go and finish up with the color correction. Then we'll go into Premiere Pro and work on our sound design, and from there we'll just export it out as a final video, and it should be done. So I'm going to go ahead and export it again. Let me check this with our mist. Ooh, that looks nice. Kind of grainy, kind of weirded out that the fog is over here but it's not over here. Let's go ahead and take this off and switch this to screen. This gives a more of a cold chill effect, even if I do take the exposure down to like 0.5. It's giving me about the same effect, maybe 0.3. So a little bit of mist down there. So either I do this or I shift channels and I switch this back to normal, and I switch this to 1, if not 1.5. I think 0.5 is good. Is decent enough, and then we can render it. If we take this off, not much of a difference. Take this off, this on, then we get this on. That's actually looking really good. Nice standing out red box. So let's go ahead and save this and export this to Adobe Premiere Pro project. Could do that, but I want to actually check it out before we export. So we'll just go ahead and CC, so after the color correction, and render it. And after this is done, we'll go ahead and open up Premiere Pro and import it to that for our sound design. Alright, so we are back and we are in Premiere Pro, and now we have our rendered our whole animation, as you can see, with all the color correction and mist and stuff in the background. Now I did notice a few things. The layer that we put on top of the whole screen, like these dots, like and this like dripping effect on the lens, it doesn't look as good. I think it kind of throws you off, and like this as well. And it would look more appropriate if it was, say, trying to depict someone with a camera or looking through a glass window, maybe something like that. This just right now looks kind of weird. Maybe I could add scratches and stuff to the scene itself, but I think I should remove this. Secondly, I saw was the mist is okay, kind of gets a little too white back here, and it's not too noticeable either over here, so we could actually remove the mist. Secondly, I saw that because in our Blender file we did not have the whole ground stretching, so you can kind of see the building underneath this skyscraper underneath the building, so you can kind of tell that there's no ground over here, and this building is kind of floating in the air. So I think if I remove it, or if I check the other one without the mist, it still looks decent enough. And if we go back here, I'd say you can't really tell that. Maybe if you look closely you can tell that there is a gap between the building and the skyscraper, but it's kind of negligible without the mist, the white background going through it. And I don't know, maybe this building needs to be scaled down or something. It looks kind of weird. This one looks fine. This one looks kind of big, or maybe it's just blurred out, so might have to remove the mist. But